This video is about DeFi Kingdoms, a cryptocurrency game on the Harmony network. If you don't know anything about DeFi or blockchain technology or how to get money onto something like Harmony using, for example, Binance, etc., this video is probably not for you. I'm assuming you have some knowledge of DeFi before I present this argument. But in my opinion, DeFi Kingdoms is the best bet available in DeFi that I have seen. I have personally invested in it pretty early, so I am biased. However, I very recently tripled down on DeFi Kingdoms, and I'm going to probably continue to do so. It's one of my biggest bets, and I'm confident that I'm correct about that. So hopefully I'll be able to convince you the same, not because, hey, this random guy that you probably don't know is telling you to do so, but because the reasons that I lay out. So recently it took a bit of a pump. Like, I made this video about 3 days before I released it, or sorry, I made the rest of the video before this introduction, and it's gone up maybe 30%. So maybe Jule's a little hot right now, but I have no doubt in my mind there is room for it to grow from the current price point considerably, and the decentralized exchange APRs are really, really good considering the risk available. So this video, I'm going to outline some of my justifications on why that's true, and hopefully I can convince you what I believe. First, though, I want to talk about game theory and the game theory of decentralized exchanges and why I think DeFi Kingdoms and Jewel is so good considering that game theory and what's sort of propping the backbone of DeFi Kingdoms up. So part of what makes DeFi Kingdoms exciting is the game theory was not accidentally found, it was actually built from the ground up. So it wasn't a game that they realized, hey, a decentralized exchange would fit really well into this. It was actually a group of people brainstorming, how can we create the most utility for a decentralized exchange token as possible? And the game was a result of that brainstorming session. So to prove that the DeFi Kingdoms team has taken a bottom-up approach and is very intelligent tokenomics, I want to show you the white papers, which if I recommend you verify a lot of what I'm saying through your own research, and the white papers is generally the best place to do it. So you go to menu, about plus, docs, and then here are the DeFi Kingdom docs. You want to click on the left bar, go to how DeFi Kingdom works, and then go to the gardens to see the issuance schedule of Jewel. Shows how the multiplier changes by each epoch, which epoch equals a week. And as you can see, there's a super high multiplier at first, and then it goes logarithmically down each epoch, and then settling into the 8 and 4 multiplier indefinitely. And for the first tokenomic is, okay, at epoch 1, you have an insanely high multiplier. So it's actually, okay, so what, a factor of 50 more, 60 times from the final epoch to the first. The rate slows by a factor of 60, but it's assuming at week 1 there's literally no infrastructure in place, and it was literally just the white papers and terrible graphics, worse than they are now, and barely any community or anything. So you're taking a massive gamble. So the amount of risk relative to the return was proportional. But then, if the game is successful, by this point, you had maybe $5 to $10 million in Epoch 1, and then you might have, I don't know, $500 million, $1 billion if the game is successful by here. So it's the price of the Jewel token will go up so much, and there are so much more demand for Jewel, so that it actually kind of scales out. Not exactly, sorry, I didn't explain that too well, because the key difference is this locking model is that at first, 95% of your Jewel is locked. So this is actually going to go down by a factor of 20, which would be about equivalent to Epoch 11 if everything was unlocked in Epoch 11. And the locking model incentivizes people from the early epochs to stay later. And because the whole point is retaining the value of Jewel. So not just like I'm going to farm early and then dump once I can. So you're sticking around, you're seeing what's going on in the ecosystem. So that's positive tokenomic, I should say. The other interesting thing is that it unlocks linearly. So it's not like you unlock a giant pile of Jewel at once and then just dump the whole token value. It's very clear that they want people to stick around. But the genius thing is that the heroes that they sell, which are an NFT, the heroes have certain statistics that help you unlock these things faster. So what you might have is an arms race from people who have a lot of locked Jewel from the early epochs, paying tons of money for the best heroes possible that can unlock the Jewel at the fastest race. And the more this arms race takes place, the more that people who buy heroes will profit, and the more that increases the value of Jewel going forward. So, and this is just a glimpse into all the different ways that they've done to make people compete for resources and to retain their player base. Like, for example, they're expanding to Avalanche. There's a lot more things. So I hope that gives a taste as to the intelligent tokenomics and their bottom up. So I am very excited for GameFi. And the biggest reason that I am excited for GameFi is because it gets around law. And why does that matter? Because people love to gamble. And you know what all these cryptocurrency games have in common? You can make a shitload of money by investing a little bit of money. And consistently, you are actually, to get into this game, you probably need a few $1,000s to just start off. And that's like a few $1,000 buy-in to a poker tournament. What game that is regulated centrally can you do anything close to that? You can compete in League of Legends tournaments and whatnot if you're the best in the world. But if you're just a savage, snarling, foaming at the mouth gambler like I am and like you probably are, where else can you do that other than cryptocurrency? So these games are like a Trojan horse to gambling. And honestly, these games kind of like, if this game was played for no money, it would be complete dog shit. There would be nothing interesting. Like, look at these graphics. They're like Super Nintendo graphics at best with like pretty questionable interface, like inconsistent UI, et cetera, et cetera. But when all of a sudden you can make $500,000 if things all go right and you play your cards right and you invest like 20, 30 grand and everything goes well, like that's becomes so much more interesting. Like poker as a game is not that good of a game if it's not played for money. Like you would get bored so quick. So I've heard the argument that cryptocurrency games suck. And yes, they do suck, but shitty games, when played for a lot of money, all of a sudden become pretty damn fun. And there's definitely some RNG elements which add to the whole gambling psychology in this game. So I think it's pretty easy to pick up, and there's a lot of gamble in it, and you can make good money in it. So that's why I'm held up. Like what other areas in DeFi, short of pure degen farms where the tokenomics are terrible, where you can find 700% APRs on like good, where both tokens are interesting holds. Like Jewel has a lot of utility, and I'm pretty bullish it. And Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and you're earning 650%. So it's riskier than like an Aave or something like that, but compared to some shitty degen farm, like it's pretty damn good. And like the TVL is pretty low, and there's a lot of options. So if people all of a sudden want to ship a lot of Bitcoin to the Harmony network, and this goes up, the total deposited, there's still a lot of options like Jewel One, Jewel UST, Jewel ETH. I'm currently in the Jewel or the Bitcoin and the ETH pool. So there's just a lot of room for this to go down and still be very interesting. Like I'm personally super happy with 150% APR. And this is going to have to go down so the price of Jewel is going to have to go down a lot, and the issuing schedule like has to play out for months and months on end for this to go down to like 150%. And even then I'm happy. So but let's look at the TVL here. So it's 436 million, about 400 million probably in just like the jewel area of it. And I could easily see this doubling. I could see a lot of new users who haven't heard of DeFi Kingdoms come over. There are barriers to entry in that Harmony is not a fully developed ecosystem, so there might be a bit of a cost to bring your tokens over and then sell them and then make them leave. That might scare away some big players who would otherwise soak up these APRs, like some hedge funds might be scared of the Harmony network because it's not fully developed. And there are risks that I think would scare off a lot of players. But there's just too much value here relative to the quality of product, and people will catch on. And there's just too much money in DeFi right now. Other projects in DeFi don't look very good. So I could see this easily doubling from here, which gives still a lot of room for growth. So the last thing I want to talk about is the backbone of this game and why I believe it is less risky than it might appear at first glance. And that is the development team, the community, and what they've shown so far. I have paid attention to this game since 2-3 weeks in, when it was basically just white papers and graphics, and I was terrified that they were going to rug because it seemed like such a good rug. There was no audit for it. I'm just naturally pretty risk adverse, and I've watched them. First of all, they answered my questions when I was able to reach out and talk to the developer when I did, and they were very friendly and accommodating. Then once they got the audit eventually, and they released what team was doing the audit, and they had a very ambitious release schedule, they were able to hit every single milestone of release on time, more or less, like within a couple days since the start of the project to now, and they've been consistently releasing new features every single week. And if you know anything about video games, that is really hard to do. That no video game is on time. And so that alone shows me that they are hardworking and have a good sense of what they can do. And I just want to show you the Discord. I recommend going to the Discord and just checking it out before you make a big investment. But they have a very active community. Tons of people reply to everything that you have, that all the questions that you have. You can interact with the developers. I don't know if they're online right now, but yeah, like all these developers here, many of them reply. Frisky is very intelligent. He's been on Ask Me Anythings to Takey, the Humble Farmer Army. He's been interacting with the Discord, and I'm very impressed with his thought process in general. You can find price discussion. We'll show you like the price of Jewel and the price of all these items. If you want to sell heroes, it's all here, and people are super friendly and helpful, which is a very good sign. And they've been that way since the start. This is like, there are people that have made this game their identity. Forward transition. Okay, to cover all my bases, I need to also talk about the risks of this game. So I've been bull tarting it up and, buy, up only, but it is, I would not say it is a low risk venture. So obviously we're in cryptocurrency, which is just inherently high risk, but relative to buying Bitcoin in a hard wallet, I think this is quite risky. And even relative to holding an Aave, I also think it's risky. However, relative to a degen farm or any other farms giving equivalent APRs, I think it's very low risk because of their track record and lots of things I've talked about. But so I'm going to show you about in the white papers the audit by Solidity Finance, which has a few concerning things, but overall I'm willing to accept these risks considering everything I've learned about the development team. But the development team has a lot of power over Jewel, like a dictatorship level power. There's not an individual on the development team that can just steal all the Jewel, but according to the audit, which I really think you should read because I'm not going over all of it right now, but so the authorized user on the Jewel token contract, I believe, is a group. I think I remember this from an AMA, but a group of the developers all have to sign off on it, but they're able to mint tokens at any time up to a once defined limit that is separate from the cat limit. So they could just, at any point, they could just create like a billion Jewel and then sell it all on market and tank the market. So that is a bit concerning to me, and why, even though I think this is such a good bet and I really do trust the developers, they all seem to have their own kind of agenda, and they seem like good people, and they have a lot of financial incentive to keep this project going. It's the rug risk is such that I would not put all my cryptocurrency into this. It's just I think it's low, but it's not so low that it's non-existent. Like, for example, I just recently sold all my one tokens and put it into Jewel, but I was hesitant to do that for a very, very long time, because even though I think like DeFi Kingdoms is a way better project than One or Harmony, it doesn't have the same level of rug risk that DeFi Kingdoms does, or just there are so many smart contracts that are being interacted with that I don't fully understand the coding, but I do know the more smart contracts that you have access to, I think the more room for exploits. And so far they've been flawless, but it makes me still a bit hesitant to just go all in. So keep in mind, if this wasn't the case, like if this was 100% not risky, these APRs would just be unfathomable. Like there's no way, like people would, from all, the second they see this, would ape into it and reduce it dramatically. So it is kind of priced in there with the risk. So in conclusion, I just wanted to summarize what I said before in case you want to just skip to the end and hear the arguments as to why you should buy Jewel if you can afford it. Not financial advice, blah, 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 blah. So first of all, there are multiple avenues to make money. There are ways to game the system economically with items, questing, heroes, buying and selling NFTs, and farming, which is what I'm doing. So I think the farming is super high APR relative to the risk, which is exciting considering I don't think there's that many more options for that. The narratives right now in crypto, the strongest areas are both metaverse tokens, which is GameFi. This isn't quite the metaverse, but it is still related, and NFTs. So people who just aping for that reason might boost up the value of the Jewel token. They have a strong team. They have a strong community. They have a flawless track record so far. I mean, the price of Jewel has mostly held up for crypto's not doing particularly well right now, especially Bitcoin. And Jewel is done well despite that. And it's had 30% dips, 40% dips here and there, but considering the market that we're in, it's done very well. It is high emission rate, and it's gone up 8-fold since when I got into it, with room to grow. I also think they've delivered on every single promise that they've made so far, and they've had a pretty ambitious roadmap, and they've been able to deliver on that all with very little road bumps. They have multi-chain growth, so it's not limited by Harmony, which is a fairly small chain. They're finding ways to expand their audience base to people who currently can't get in. So again, those big mega funds that are sketched out about the Harmony ecosystem, they might want to take a look at it once it gets to Aave, maybe, Avalanche, maybe they haven't heard of it. And the tokenomics are brilliant. So if I have not convinced you yet to at least look into it, what are we doing here? So in my opinion, it is by far, not just a little bit, is by far the best crypto bet that I can make right now. And I'm not going all in on it because of some of the risks that I talked about earlier and just want to diversify my portfolio, but I probably should. I have an pretty high allocation relative to my risk tolerance in Joule, and that might even increase going forward after I've made this video. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, and share it to your friends, share it to your mom, share it to your grandma. Yell if you want to walk around the street and just like tell people about this awesome video you saw. Please feel free to do it. My name is Heisenberg. Follow me at Heisenberg on Twitter, maybe 96. I'll link it below. Thank you for watching, and get money.